and 19 and on, how diligent and careful David is as to who's going with him, who's not going with him, and how he treats. So we already learned he's not taking the Pilakshim women, the concubine women. That could be less important. He can't take everyone. The trail is a long trail. It doesn't know how many days or weeks or months it's going to take. You can't go everywhere. You can't take everyone. He does take the Kreti Upleti, which we said is one of the top guardians of David HaMelech, and maybe they excelled also in their power of Torah, like the Sanhedrin. And in other terms, 600 of people from Gat are walking before David. In other words, he's noticing each and every one, as we see in verse 18, over him up at Pnei HaMelech. They're all going before the king. This could be, we said like last time, it could be like a gdud, a big battalion of non-Jews that are hired, or it could be really a special force of David, and they're Jews. And maybe these are part of the people that went with David when he's fighting from Shaul. In any event, they're called the people from Gat. And maybe their leader, Ittai Agiti, as we ended our last year, last time, Ittai, David says, why do you have to come? But notice he's acting like a king. He's making decisions. Pasuk Yutet. Vayomer HaMelech li-Ittai Agiti, lama teleka mata itanu? There's no reason for you to come, even though Ittai Agiti is known as what? As a noted soldier. And he says, why should you come? Meaning, Shuv v'shevim HaMelech. Wow. When he says, return and dwell with the king, which king does he mean? Very interesting. We're talking here about Avshalom. We're talking about Avshalom. In other words, David, with all due greatness, he shows his humility, and he's already calling Avshalom HaMelech. Now, why does he want him to be there? Ki nochri ata. You're not accustomed to being with me. Ken, you could be Jewish, right? You didn't live in Yerushalayim. You were always traveling from place to place, from Gat to here. Why should you be there? In other words, the matter will be this: who will Avshalom suspect as a spy? Which people are the closest to David? And if they hang around Yerushalayim, they might be what? Tried as spies. So maybe the logic of David, some of the commentators explain, is what? That you won't be suspected as a spy. Why not? Because you're not here all the time. You're nochri, you're estranged to me. You're not around me all the time, even though he's a top-notch soldier. So look how careful the chemla, the love, the Malbli Barbanel talks here about. Look at the chemla, the love, the mercy David has for the key people that want to support him. Look how he acts at a time of distress. Okay? He's talking about certain persons to go back and be there. He continues to say this. Pasuk 20.
Is it because David HaMelech has a lack of trust in him?
No, the opposite. He doesn't want to be making a position on people to be traveling with him. Who knows? How many weeks, months, days? Why should you mess up your life? He's showing here, the Tanakh is revealing to us the great love that he has, the great sensitivity he has to people, to his supporters. As it continues to talk about Ittai Agiti in Pasuk 20, Kaf, Timol Boacha. When did you come? You didn't come a long time ago to join me. Vayom aniacha imanu lalechet. You only joined me, what? Not a long time ago. And now I'm going to mobilize you to go with me? Why? Look at David's words. Vani olech al asher ani olech. I'm going to go wherever I'm going to go. I may have to travel north, I'll travel north. I'm going to travel south, east, west. Shuv, go back. Vashevet achecha imach. Take your brothers with you from maybe the 600 people he's talking about. And he calls it chesed ve'emet. In other words, I don't want you to cause you to be running around with me because I don't know to where I'm going to get, to where I'm going to arrive. And you know what? The support that you supported me until now, it's chesed ve'emet. I accept it. It's true kindness. I know that you're not expecting what? In return, favors. Okay? So therefore, here David makes it very clear there's no need for you to go. What does Ittai say? Pasuk Kaval of the drama continues. Vayan Itai et HaMelech. He calls him the king. Vayomar, and he says to him, Chai Adonai, v'chei Adoni HaMelech, ki b'mkom asher yesham Adoni HaMelech, im lemavet, im lechayim, ki sham yeh avdecha. Here, who's taking an oath? Itai is taking an oath. We can say that it's a very strong oath in God's name, because he says, Chai Hashem v'chei Adoni HaMelech. He doubles it up by the life of God and by the life of the master of the king. So we could say that it's a very strong shvuah. And what does he want to say? Im lemavet, l'chaim. Whether it's going to cause me death or it's going to cause me life, I don't care. Wow. The support of Itai, kisham yeh avadecha. In other words, there are those that call things blind chassidut. Have you heard of their term? There are people that support leaders, rabbis, whatever, blindly, without using rationale, without using logic. Here we see that it's not this type of blind chassidut. Why? Itai understands that there's a danger involved. I know I might die. He says that. He knows that there's a danger. In fact, what did he say? What might happen to him first? Im lemavet, im lechayim. He first mentions death, and then he mentions life. In other words, we see a tremendous support. After David tries to show sensitivity, mercy on Itai, there's no need for you to come with me. Okay? Here comes Itai, he makes a shavua, a very strong shavua. And what does he proceed? What? Death before life? So Itai is going. He's making an oath. Can you stop him? No? Pasuk Kav Bet, verse 22. Vayomer David el Itai, lech va'avor. Can you imagine what's happening here? It's like David is standing behind the turnstiles. He allows anyone and everyone that he thinks to go. Okay, you go. But David stands in the rear. You can see in this pasuk. Vayomer David el Itai, lech va'avor. Go and pass. Go with the others that are supporting me. Who else? And what does he do? Vayavor Itai Giti, v'chol anashav. He takes his men. V'chol ataf, his children. Asher ito.
Tough children?
Yes. Can you imagine? Wow. That really shows support and love. So here we see that maybe equal to the amount of support and love that David was showing Itai. Itai shows, wow, how much I'm willing to support you. I'm willing to support you. And now it is Gitai. He understands the danger. And wow, he's taking children. That means he and some others brought their own families. Would you say that's Mesirut Nefesh? That's really devotion. Because he's basically endangering their lives. What happens if the army of Avshalom catches up? Okay, we're mentioning, of course, that David did not choose to remain in Yerushalayim. David's not looking for civil war. He's not looking for bloodshed. David knows that there is a prophecy that God gave Natan, that he's going to suffer with his children. And God will take away his wives. So right now, we're in the middle of a major distressful situation. David's not taking anyone, but he's supervising over anyone and everyone going there. For instance, who is the next one? Pasuk Kav Gimel. V'chol haaretz, meaning the dwellers of Yerushalayim, bochim kol gadol. Tremendous cry for the Yerushalmi people. Is it obvious why? They're the closest to David HaMelech. There's no one closer than them. V'chol ha'am, meaning all the supporters of David, over him, they're passing. Who are they passing? Huh? As they're passing before the king. The king is standing here.
David HaMelech, right?
That's right. And his supporters are passing before him. He's like, not necessarily counting them, but he's observing who's coming, who's not coming. He's not looking to see, you didn't come, I'm going to close accounts with you next week. But he doesn't want to impose upon people that don't need to come. So everyone is passing. V'melech, and then he starts passing. Over Benachal Kidron. In other words, the king purposely is staying last. Isn't that amazing? And he's watching whoever is passing the turnstiles. And now he's passing through Nachal Kidron. We all know where the Kidron Valley is, right underneath Temple Mount, underneath Mount Olives. V'chol am ovrim et penei derech amidbar. I saw the Dat Mikrav, Musad Rav Kook says, you know why David in particular remained last to leave? That if we know that things are happening swiftly, the revolution is happening swiftly, the departing from Yerushalayim is happening swiftly. We saw the word Mehirut Maher several times in one pasuk. But do you know that David is going last? Why do you think he's going last? Who might catch up? Who might catch up to David?
Avshalom.
Avshalom. If Avshalom catches, he may want to kill people that are in the rear. David wants to make sure who's going to be in the rear? Himself. Okay, so God forbid, no one will be touched.
The rear guard, you mean, like that's...
He's in the rear, everyone's going in front of him, they're traveling east.
So he'll be at the frontal part of the attack, David Melech.
He doesn't want to attack.
No, but if they do get attacked...
He is going to be the attack first.
David Melech will be attacked.
Exactly. He doesn't want his supporters to be hit whatsoever. That's what we see. That's an amazing ma'ala, it's an amazing virtue. Okay? Now, what about spiritual leaders? Who's joining him, who's not joining him? Pasuk Kav Dalet, verse 24. Vine, surprise. What's the surprise? Kam tzadok v'chol ha'levim ito nosim et aron brit ha'Elohim. Vayatziku et aron Elohim vayalev yatar atom kol ha'am lavor min ha'ir. Tzadok, as we know, was the present Kohen Gadol. But here we see that the Leviim, like the Torah tells us in Bamidbar chapter 4, they're carrying the Holy Ark. Remember, this is the Ark that David finally brought to Yerushalayim not long ago. And what do we learn? It says, Vayatziku, this word, what does Vayatziku mean? He'emidu, they stood it up. In other words, they stood it up, they're carrying it out, and we're told that Evyatar is now, the opposite happened. Evyatar was the Kohen Gadol. Rashi brings Chazal that day that David is leaving, Evyatar loses his ability to use the Holy Ark or the the Choshen Mishpat on him to ask questions of the Urim v'Tumim. Okay? Evyatar tried to ask questions, he didn't get an answer. Meaning, the divine inspiration is being taken out of Evyatar. Now, who will go instead?
Evyatar
is the Kohen Gadol.
Why is the
Evyatar comes from the family of Eli Kohen Gadol. And now we're saying that the Kohen Gadol is being taken away from Eli. Who will it be given to? Okay, remember Evyatar is from the family of Itamar that brought Eli Kohen. And now it's going to be transferred to Elazar's family, which are his children, Tzadok and Pinchas. Why? Because at this moment, they lost their ability to contact God. They could not get an answer from the Urim v'Tumim. Who did? That's right. Who did get an answer? Tzadok. Oto hayom nistalek min hakuna sheshal b'Urim v'Tumim v'lo nana. Nichnas Tzadok tachtav, and that's what the Midrash says. So we're saying Tzadok is from Elazar's family.
He's the son of Evyatar?
He's a son from Pinchas's family. No, the opposite. Evyatar is from the Itamar family. And from Itamar came Eli Kohen Gadol.
Yeah.
But he was destined, punished by God, that the Kohenah will not continue from him. So only we see that Evyatar was the Kohen Gadol until now from the house of Eli. But now God is taking it away. God is taking it away
back to
Tzadok, to the Elazar family. From Itamar to the Elazar family, and indeed in the person called Tzadok. The truth is, when will Tzadok be anointed as Kohen Gadol? Only years later, when Shlomo HaMelech takes over, then Tzadok will be the Kohen Gadol.
Isn't it also like somewhere in the prophet, I think it says that from Tzadok, not only for Tzadok will there be that you need Kohen.
That's right.
Kohen Gadol.
The prophecies, yes, absolutely.
So the tzadok is a tzaddik, yeah?
I hope so. The question is, the king now orders Tzadok to bring back the holy ark. Pasuk Kafeh. Vayomer HaMelech leTzadok, Hashev et Aron Elokim ha'ir. Why? David, like he's showing very subtle sensitivity to certain persons, he also says, why should the ark be taken up? Because of me? Chas v'shalom. Like, look what he says now. Okay? If I found favor in the eyes of God, then he'll find a way to return me. Vashivani, Verani Otoved Navel, he'll bring me back to his holy place, to his holy abode. Vim Kol Yomar, but if God says what? Lo chafatzti bach, I don't want you. So why should I force? Why should I rape the holy ark to be taken out? If God doesn't want me, then he's not. Then why should I force the ark to be taken out? In other words, what we call in the language of the Talmud, mima nafshach. Whatever way you look at it, it's going to be the right thing to do. Meaning, if I'll find favor in God's eyes, Hashem will bring me back to Yerushalayim and I'll be with the ark. If God doesn't find favor with my eyes, is it righteous to take the ark out because of me? I won't find favor in Hashem. So David is very fair, very righteous, very well planned and thought. I can't force the will of God to take out the Aron because of me. Okay? Furthermore, David realizes
Why would
that
he wanted to take out the Aron?
the holy Kohanim wanted to support him and take it out with them.
For war, like...
No, not necessarily for war. Right now, they think a terrible thing is happening, that Avshalom is putting on a revolution. It's not the right thing to do. David, out of humility or accepting the judgment, doesn't want to fight. He's leaving. The Kohanim think the best thing to do is have the holy ark together with the king of Israel. Why should it be? Maybe he might do something bad to it. So we see here the great belief of David that he doesn't have to have the ark with him. Okay? What is the reply? In fact, David continues to speak. Pasuk Kavzain. Vayomer HaMelech el Tzadok HaKohen. Next two words. Haroeata. Look what David is politely asking Tzadok. Haroeata? Do you see what I see? He's asking him. Ken, do you understand what I'm doing? In other words, the pshat is the advice that David is giving, that the Aron be returned to Yerushalayim. Don't you see that? Don't you understand what I say? Don't you agree with what I say? Haroeata? Shuva ir b'shalom. Bring it back in peace. What's going to be in Yerushalayim? Notice the two sons. Number one, Vachimaatz bincha, your son, called Achimaatz. V'Yonatan ben Aviatar, shnei Menachem itchem. Let the two sons be with you. Okay? Your son of Tzadok and your son of Aviatar. Let them be there. In other words, the king is saying there's no need that the Kohanim be coming with me. They're not going to be suspected of politicizing the Mishkan and so on and so forth. Rather, hopefully they'll see in a vision that they're not needed, but I want them as spies, David is basically saying. How do we see he wants them as spies? Look at Pasuk Kafchet. Ru. See, Anochi mitmameh. You're going to see that I'm going to be delaying myself, and you'll get more of a chance to bring me secret information. Where will I delay myself? Be'avrot hamidbar. In the low lands of the desert. It could be as you're leaving Yerushalayim, one meaning, or the lowlands might be the plain area next to the Jericho waters of the Yarden. Okay? It could be next to the Jordan. What is David waiting for? Okay? What is he waiting for? Adbo adavar imiyechem lagidli. I want you to tell me. If you have any bait, you have any what? Messages you want to tell me. Important messages. David wants to know. Pasuk Kafted, Vayashev Tzadok ve'Eviatar taron olim Yerushalayim. Vayeshu sham. Tzadok makes the decision together with Eviatar. They return the holy ark to, and not only that, but they live there. So here they accept David's advice. They return to Yerushalayim with the ark. They listen to David. Pasuk Lamed. David ole b'maleh zaitim. He's climbing up the heights of Mount Olives. Ole uvocheh is going up and crying. V'rosh lo chafoy. His head is covered up with a garment. He's like a real what? What else? Nazir, maybe different. Look at David is mourner. He's in mourning. His head is all the way down, and his head is being worn with the clothing. Rosh lo chafoy vu olech yachef, and he's walking backward. He's walking barefoot. All these are traditional signs of mourning. All his supporters with him. Chafoy ish rasho. Everyone lowers their heads, okay, to the sand. And they're crying as they're climbing up. If we ask ourselves, what is this expression of David? It's obvious. David is saddened, terribly saddened. He's so saddened that he's left Yerushalayim. He has some supporters, some he turned back. He turned the Aron back. And now what is he doing? He is, what is he doing? He's crying. He's showing b'cholofin leadership. He's showing proper religious leadership as well. Why? He's going up and crying. His head is down. His head is covered. And he's walking barefoot. So we see that he's in a real predicament of avelut, of mourning, which is true. He's being kicked out of Yerushalayim by his own son. Ken. What else? Lamed Aleph. As he goes up and cries, Pasuk Lamed Aleph, David Igid Lemor, Achitofel bakoshrim, im Avshalom. Vayomer David, Sakelna tatzat Achitofel Adonai. Gentlemen, what is David saying regarding Achitofel? What is David saying regarding Achitofel?
What does Tofel mean?
Tafel, maybe. Senior. What do we say about Tafel? But that's a different letters.
My brother Tofel?
Yeah, but he was a smart guy. He's a big advisor to David. What do we see here?
Oh, it sounds like Tipo.
Okay, what do we see here? What's happening? Allah ubacha. We said before that he's crying, he's raising, he's climbing up the mountain. Ken, when he's climbing up, he's running away from Yerushalayim. Everyone's crying. And here David tells everyone around him, you know who's joining, you know who's in the mind, the brains of this revolution?
Higid is like passive.
He's telling a story.
It was told to David.
Yes, he told it.
Higid lemor.
As a pasuk you're reading.
Lamed Aleph. David higid lemor.
David igid lemor achitofel bakoshrim im Avshalom. So David has a story to tell. It's very clear.
It's David was saying this.
Yes. Where is this story, gentlemen? Where's it happening? It's happening in Yerushalayim on the road between Shar, what's the name of that gate? Shar Hashbot?
Shara.
Going east. David is leaving. Achitofel, though, is making a prayer against Achitofel. Achitofel is part of this merit. Achitofel gave the plan to Avshalom how to do this. Vayomer David Sakelna, may you foil, may you thwart away. Atzat Achitofel, the advice of Achitofel. God, it's a prayer to God. It's a clear prayer to God that he doesn't want Achitofel to remain. So the question will be from here on, is David emotional about this matter because it's affecting him so much? Or is David still holding his cool? So we'll continue with this point, B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow.